Darius, I know we've already told you a million times, but I just want you to know your grandmother and I are extremely proud of you for agreeing to do this.
We sure are. This is a huge opportunity for you to get out there and make something of yourself, baby.
Now we need to be leaving here in the next 30 minutes if we're going to make it on time. I already got everything loaded up in the car, so go on ahead and make sure you're not forgetting anything so we can hit the road.
Man, never in a million years did I think I'd be leaving a block, especially not to go to no boarding school. Besides the Tar Heels, I honestly don't even know what there is in North Carolina. Anyways, we got like a 12-hour ride ahead of us, so I figured that'll give us more than enough time to get acquainted. Kenny Ray Smith, my dad. Hustler, player, drug dealer, robber. I mean, you could have called him a lot of things, but the one thing you could never call him was broke. See, he grew up a very hard life. Losing both parents at a young age, he was forced to mature a lot faster than most. Now, for some reason, my pops hates to talk about the old days, but from what I heard, man, dude was known for punching on shit and having money. During his heyday, he and his crew had the streets of Champaign, Illinois in a headlock. Amira Lee Washington, my mom, caring, loving, gentle, really just a beautiful soul. See, she was raised in a very strict household where love and affection came secondary to respect and manners. Now, my grandparents held very strong religious beliefs, so as soon as they found out my mom was pregnant with me in high school, they kicked her out the crib. Well, that's when my pop stepped in. He moved me and my mom about 2 hours away to his crib in Champaign. Man, life at my pop's crib was lovely. I swear it seemed like anything I wanted I got. But look, I always knew my pops was getting money, but it wasn't until the feds kicked in our front door that I would find out how. See, apparently he and a few others were responsible for several armed robberies around the area. I still remember going to my dad's court dates, not really being able to understand what was going on, but when the judge handed out that sentence, man, I knew right then and there it would be a very long time until I saw my pops again as a free man. Southside Chicago, the belly of the beast. In the early 2000s, this place was a war zone, and it's still that today. After my pops got locked up, my mom's had no choice but to move us back here so she can get some help from my grandparents. I jumped off the porch in middle school and dove head first into the streets. Mom's was working 2 and 3 jobs, so the majority of the time I was alone. She'd be getting off work and I'd be leaving the house to go to school, or I'd be coming home from school and she'd be leaving to go to work. Well, it wasn't long until I completely stopped going to school and started to follow in my pop's footsteps. I got my hands on my first gun and went to work. Yeah, my first thing was this corner store right outside our neighborhood, but then I quickly upgraded and tried to hit this check cashing spot on the other side of town. Listen, bro, my crime spree didn't last very long. Them hoes locked me in the lobby while I was trying to make my escape. 12 came and yeah, bro, it was all bad, but luckily, since I was a minor, I basically walked away with a slap on the wrist. My mom did everything she could to save me from the streets. She knew with me being alone all the time, I was bound to get in more trouble. So she got me a membership at the local YMCA. Now, this was my first time playing organized basketball, and bruh, I instantly fell in love with the game. I mean, everything just seemed to come so natural to me. It was almost like it was in my DNA. I spent that whole summer working on my game. So by the time the season came, I was already miles ahead of everybody on the freshman team. So I got moved up to JV after just 2 games. I did my thing there as well. And before I knew it, the varsity coach was pulling me to the side to have that talk.
Hey man, you've been doing your thing out there on the JV squad. The coaches and I, we've been talking. Think it's time for you to suit up varsity. You think you can handle that?
After only playing the game for a few months, I found myself getting solid minutes in my first varsity game as a freshman. I finished with like 13 points and 4 assists. The game came extremely easy to me, and I knew it was only a matter of time until I became a starter. If I'm being honest, I felt some type of way that my mom couldn't get off work to come see me play, but I understood, and honestly, I was kind of used to it since she had only been to a few of my JV games. But look, she was always excited to hear how I did though. Yeah, as soon as I walked through the door, she'd be waiting right there for the play-by-play breakdown of my performance. Well, this time things were a little bit different. Mama, I'm home. What the fuck? Mama! Mama? What the? No! Mama! Mama! What the fuck? Man, my grandpa's got to be the world's slowest driver. And then my grandma got the nerve to be talking the whole trip and playing gospel music. I swear this has been the longest 5 hours of my life, and I'm really tweaking because we got like 7 hours left. But it is what it is, man. Let's get back to the story. At just 34 years old, my mom suffered a stroke. The doctor said the constant stress and lack of sleep were huge factors and ultimately cost her life. So I mean, basically you can say she worked herself to death. Now I'm sure you can imagine how hard it was for me losing really my only parent, but also finding her dead like that didn't help either. I ended up going to stay with my grandparents who lived just a few houses down from my mom's crib. Now my grandpa is a well-respected pastor at this Lutheran church that's been a pillar in our community for years. Many people refer to him as a peacekeeper as he's been able to help solve several gang feuds in the city. But to me, he's just my grandpa, a smooth, laid-back type of dude with a lot of wisdom and a lot of respect. Now, my granny, that's who I would consider a hard ass. Yeah, she plays no games and she has a very short temper. Her and my grandpa seem to balance each other out very well. But look, when I first got to their crib, man, they tried to sit me down and establish that old school type of parenting. You know, curfews, chores, punishments, that type of stuff. Now, of course, I was grateful they took me in, but if I'm being honest, man, my mom was really the only person that could keep me out the streets. And with her being gone, yeah, it was just a matter of time before I went back to my old ways. While snooping around my grandparents' medicine cabinet, I hit the jackpot. They had a whole bunch of old prescriptions that they hadn't thrown out. See, to them it was trash, but to me it was treasure. I took anything with value that I could find and started making transactions. You can get your hands on some perks really easy in the city, but real prescription lean, man, that's a different story. I re-upped and made a few more plays, and then I put the guys on so we all could eat. It was me, Dre, Lil Rob, Kev, and a few others. Now, we gonna get into each of their stories on the next episode, but for all you need to know right now is these was my brothers. Yeah, we was having real motion in the city. At this point, I had completely given up sports. Yeah, I had put the ball down and picked the pistol up. But look, naturally, when you have emotion, jealousy starts to come from out of nowhere. Well, that jealousy caused my best friend Dre to lose his life and eventually kicked off a bloody war in my neighborhood. But like I said, man, we're gonna get into all that on the next episode. I found myself in a very serious situation and got locked up for a few weeks. Luckily, the respect the judge had for my grandpa allowed me to get out, but only under the stipulation that I leave the state of Illinois until I turn 18. Well, that's why I'm going here, Chapel Hill Academy. It's a prep school somewhere up in North Carolina. I mean, it was either this or sit in jail for only God knows how long. But my grandpa's real good friends with the priest there, so he was able to pull some strings and get me enrolled. I guess they're known for their academics and supposedly they got a real good squad there. I hear a few players made it to the league, but I don't know, man, we'll see. As of right now, I'm not really focused on hooping, but I mean, who knows what the future holds. Anyways, I know things gonna be hectic when we get there since today is move-in day, so I'm gonna try to get a little bit of rest. I'll tap back in with y'all in a minute. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for blessing me, and of course a big shout out to my grandparents for helping me get to this point. Also, I'd like to thank the teachers and the staff here at Chapel Hill, as well as all my coaches and teammates for putting up with me over the past 2 years. And oh yeah, I can't forget the people back home in Iraq, man, y'all already know what it is with me. But yeah, after taking my time and really weighing out all my options, I've officially decided to attend. Man, hold on. It ain't no way we finna skip over the past 2 years of my life like ain't nothing happened. The last time we spoke, I was just getting to campus to start my junior year of high school. Now here I am on stage about to announce what college I'll be playing football at next year. Man, give me a second to rewind time so I can show you everything that happened that led to me being at this point. Pulling up to Chapel Hill, I really didn't know what to expect. This was my first time leaving the state of Illinois, and honestly, I think I started to have a panic attack. And to make things worse, my grandparents didn't even come inside. Nah, they dropped me off at the gates and got on. After roaming around for a little bit, I was finally able to find my dorm room, which honestly wasn't much bigger than the room I had back at home. I dropped my bags off and unpacked a little bit, but then I was told to report to the front office. That's where I was given my uniforms. Man, they gave me sweaters and ties and slacks and handkerchiefs. I mean, really all type of stuff. But later that night, I was looking at the schedule and I noticed we had to go to something called Divine Services. Man, bro, I knew this place was a Lutheran school or whatever, but I had no idea we were required to go to church. They had us in here with our heads bowed, praying, fellowshipping, worshiping. Man, I laid in bed that first night really questioning myself, like, did I make a mistake coming here? Then I quickly remembered my only other alternative was sitting in the Cook County jail until I turned 21, so
Yeah. The first month or so was miserable. I mean, I didn't know anybody or have any real friends, so all I did was go to class, get on the game, and go to sleep. I had gotten word that if you played sports or were involved in some type of club, you get more privileges around campus. With basketball tryouts coming up, I figured it'd be best if I hit the gym to tighten up on my game. But honestly, man, I wasn't too concerned because like I told y'all before, basketball had always come natural to me, so making a team should have been a piece of cake. Bro, that tryout was anything but a piece of cake. I mean, I started off pretty strong, knocking down a few quick shots. I was feeling good, but I immediately knew I couldn't compete with that level of competition. I had no clue then, but of course I found out afterwards that a few of the players we were playing against were ranked in the nation. I mean, Cade Harding, for example. That's the #1 high school player in all of basketball. I actually heard about Lil Buddy when I was back in Iraq, but actually playing against him, man, that hit different. It was a truly humbling experience because, like I told y'all, I mean, I never really trained for basketball. I was just naturally good, and honestly, we didn't have that type of talent back at home. So when I actually played somebody who had dedicated their whole life to the game, man, I found out quick that I wasn't on their level. Not only did I not make the team, but I left the gym with a bruised ego as well. After not being selected for the team, I had a lot of free time on my hands, so of course I went back to my old hustling ways. I was able to find a connect on Telegram, and I bought a pack of stolen iPhones. I worked my magic to get the phones repaired and unlocked, and then I started making plays. I ran up a bag in a very short amount of time, but since I was only a junior, that meant I wasn't able to leave campus. So all I did was buy DoorDash every single day and buy clothes and shoes online. Every Friday is casual Friday, so that meant we could pretty much wear whatever we wanted to class. Man, listen, I'm telling you, I didn't wear the same pair of shoes twice. From Nike to Jordan to Versace to Dior, you name it, I had it. Things were going great. Well, that was until somehow 2 of the stolen phones got tracked back to the campus, and of course I ended up getting snitched on. I found myself back in trouble, but this time it was a little bit different than before.
You know, Darius, your grandfather really put his neck on the line to get you into this program, and if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be here. So rather than kick you out, I'm willing to give you a second chance, but only under these circumstances.
The dean insisted that if I was going to stay enrolled at Chapel Hill, I had to see a therapist at least 3 times a month. With the loss of my mom and a few of the guys back home, he felt that sitting down and talking to someone could help. But we'll get into all that another time. Also, I had to enroll in an extracurricular activity. He felt like I had too much free time on my hands. Well, that's how I ended up here. The Chapel Hill Hawkeyes football team. The chess club was full. I for damn sure wasn't playing no soccer, and track is, well, track. Anyways, the team sucked when I joined, so I didn't even have to try out. I just had to show up. I started off the first game playing cornerback. I got a big hit that resulted in a fumble, but that was about it. See, I quickly realized why playing this position was so hard. I'd always get lost with all the movement and shuffling going on in the backfield and totally forget about the receiver running wide open up the sideline. That happened a few times in that game. For some reason, I just couldn't stay in front of my matchup. If you ask me, man, cornerback is the hardest position to play in football, but whatever. Anyways, the next game, coach moved me to slot receiver and I also got a new number. He saw how much speed I had, so he put me back to return punts. Man, let's just say that didn't work out too well either. My football career was off to a horrible start, and honestly, joining the track team didn't sound so bad. Well, that's when everything changed. Alright, so listen, coach, I've been thinking, and before you say no, at least hear me out. What if you put me in at running back? I mean, I got the speed and athleticism to make plays, and plus, not to mention, Matthew's gonna be out this week because of his herpes outbreak. I mean, we're 0-5 and we haven't won a single game all season. We really got nothing to lose at this point. The next 4 games of the season, I put on an absolute clinic. I honestly couldn't tell you where my skills came from, but I was virtually unstoppable. I approached playing running back like playing a game of tag. I just tried my best not to get touched. And on top of that, I wasn't afraid of any type of contact. As a matter of fact, man, I actually look forward to trying to run people over. We'd only win 2 games my junior year, but I honestly wasn't even worried about that. Yeah, man, I was just focused on having fun and making plays. But I will say though, my performance was a huge boost to the team. I mean, it seemed like the guys started to play with more confidence and passion, which was great because it gave us something to build off of for the next season. Being on a losing team sucks because obviously you don't win many games, but when you're the star on a losing team, yeah, it's a little bit different. You start to stand out and shine brighter than everybody else. Naturally, people start thinking like, if only they had a few more pieces to build around him, they could probably win a championship. Well, that's how it was for me at least. The stats I put up over those 4 games started to garner me attention from schools all across the country, and before I knew it, I was a 3-star recruit and ranked in the top 400 players in high school football. It seemed like as soon as I got my 3rd star, colleges from all over the country started sending me letters. But I quickly learned there were 2 different types of letters. Yeah, see, one letter is a school just letting you know you made it on their radar. I mean, it's pretty generic and they probably sent the same exact thing to thousands of other athletes. Meanwhile, the other letter is more personalized and it actually seemed like the coach could have wrote it himself. Well, I sat down and responded to all the schools that actually seemed genuinely interested in me, and I scheduled a few college visits. This was my first time on a plane, and I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't scared. I toured a few college campuses and checked out all their facilities. I honestly had never even been to a college, so I was getting blown away by the simplest things. But look, all the coaches kept telling me the same thing. They said I was too small to play on a college level, and I would need to add on more girth and size if I was going to have any success. After about the 3rd time being called small and skinny, bro, I started to get pissed, but I ain't tripped. I just knew I had a lot more work to do. As soon as I got back to Chapel Hill, I started doing my research on how to put on a lot of weight fast. I spent the next 2.5-3 months dirty bulking. If you're not familiar with what dirty bulking is, it's basically you just eat whatever you want, whenever you want, as much as you want. Now, it's usually greasy junk food, but it helps you get really big really fast. After my bulk was done, I had a little bit of a stomach, from all the bad eating. But instead of doing the traditional cardio like jumping rope or running sprints, I lifted weights like crazy. By the time my senior season came around, I looked like a completely different player. At the start of my senior season, I was looking to pick up right where I left off at the end of my junior year, but there was a bit of a problem. See, I don't think my body was quite used to the new added weight I had put on from doing my dirty bulk. Although I had gotten rid of a lot of fat and added on a lot of muscle, it still took me a while to get adjusted. Now, don't get me wrong, I was still able to pull off a few big runs early on, but my agility and overall speed took a huge hit, which led to me suffering several tackles for loss during the game. Luckily, our season opener opponent wasn't very good, so we were still able to pull off the victory at home to start the season off with a 1-0 record. The start of the next game was much of the same. It seemed like I was just sluggish and couldn't really move how I wanted to. I mean, I saw the holes in the defense clear as day, but the new added weight just wouldn't allow me to make the necessary cuts to get upfield. I knew something had to change, so right after that game, I started doing 30-yard sprints and long distance running. Also, I decided to do a liquid diet, that way I can shred a bunch of weight very fast before the end of the season. But look, we were still able to leave with another victory at home, but I definitely wasn't proud of my performance over those first 2 games. Now the next game, we'd be on the road, and I finally started to feel like myself again. I was able to cut back a draw play to the left-hand side of the field and break off a huge run for a touchdown. This couldn't have come at a better time, as there were several scouts in attendance watching the matchup between myself and the free safety on the opposing team. My speed and agility seemed to be making their way back, but my stamina was still missing in action. I knew that was something I'd have to build over time, so honestly I wasn't too concerned. Now, I can't remember exactly how many times I scored that game, but I know for sure I was in the end zone quite often. We were off to a 3-0 start, and even though the competition up until that point wasn't very good, the team's confidence was at an all-time high. After that performance, I had officially been given my 5th star, and I finally cracked the top 100 list of all players in the nation, which is crazy considering this was only my 2nd year playing football. Now, of course, after getting my 5th star and being ranked in the top 100, I finally started to get offers from those massive Power 5 schools, but listen man, I was just getting started. Skipping ahead towards the end of the season, we had lost 2 games, but things were still looking good for the playoffs. The entire school was behind us at this point, as we were the underdogs that came from out of nowhere. I mean, just the year before, we were the worst team in the conference that nobody cared about. My main focus at that point though was staying injury free and running up them numbers. I had finally adjusted to my new physique, and honestly, I was quite satisfied with the results I had been getting on the field. Now, the championship game took place at the University of North Carolina. This was my first time playing on a college field and the biggest crowd I had ever played in front of. My nerves was all over the place, as the team we were playing against was said to be the best in the conference. Now, I started off pretty slow as their defense seemed to be flying all over the place, but eventually I found my home in the end zone. It was in that game that I realized I could really be a factor on the next level. We went on to take home the victory, giving Chapel Hill their first football championship in over 20 years. I had a pretty solid game myself. I finished with over 150 yards on only 16 touches and a touchdown. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for blessing me, and of course a big shout out to my grandparents for helping me get to this point. Also, I'd like to thank the teachers and the staff here at Chapel Hill, as well as all my coaches and teammates for putting up with me over the past 2 years. And oh yeah, I can't forget the people back home in Iraq, man. Y'all already know what it is with me. But yeah, after taking my time and really weighing out all my options, I've officially decided to attend the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. Can y'all believe it's been almost 2 years since the last time we spoke? Man, time really does fly. But look, as you can see, I'm back home in Chicago and it feels so good to be back. But man, we got a lot of catching up to do though. I think the last time we spoke, I had just finished my senior season at Chapel Hill and officially committed to go play football at Alabama. Well, as I'm sure you can imagine, a lot has changed since then, so let's go ahead and get into it. So we gonna flash back to my first day on campus here at Alabama University. Now, if you tuned in the last episode, you should know that I committed here after my breakout senior season at Chapel Hill. Well, one of the main selling points that helped me make my decision was the living arrangements they have for athletes. Instead of staying in a small cramped dorm room like most other universities, here at Bama they put you up in a nice house. Now, of course I don't live here alone. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath crib that I share with 2 other teammates. We each got our own room and bathroom with a nice sized living room and kitchen as well. But look, I'll be honest, I don't even really remember my first few days on campus. My grandpa gave me his Lexus to drive until my NIL money kicked in, so me and the guys spent every single day partying, drinking, and, well, you should know. But speaking of NIL, as soon as my first check hit, I sent my grandparents some money for bills and utilities. You know, my grandpa is a pastor, so he refused to accept it unless I told him it was for my tithes and offerings. Anyways, the next stop I made was at the dealership, and y'all should already know what I got. I wore that red key around my neck every day like it was a diamond chain, just waiting for somebody to ask about it. Well, nobody ever said anything, but I know for sure they was looking. Bruh, when I first got here, I should have been nominated for Player of the Year, and I'm not talking about on the field. If she was a 7 or above, chances are her number was in my phone. I picked up a reputation around campus as a ladies' man. It seemed like every other night it was a new baddie over at the crib. This went on all the way up until spring camp started. Bruh, I came in totally unprepared and out of shape. All that drinking and partying caught up to me quick. I think I threw up every day for like the first week. By the time the spring game got here, I had finally got my wind back, but I had just spent all the training camp getting in shape, whereas all the other running backs were already in shape and they was just sharpening their skills. Well, this caused me to slip down the depth chart, and before I knew it, I was barely getting any reps at practice. The running back coach called me into his office and we had a very tough conversation.
Well, Smith, I think you knew this conversation was coming. The coaches and I have talked, and we believe it'd be best if you considered redshirting this year. Your play as of right now is nowhere close to where we expected it to be when we brought you in, and that's okay. Sometimes the transition from high school to college can be tough. Just take a year off to learn the game and build your body up. Come back next year fresh and ready to lead this offense from the backfield.
After meeting with Coach, I'll be honest, I was completely devastated. Although I hadn't been playing sports very long, I had never been nobody's backup. So redshirting and not playing at all was crazy. I laid in bed that night with my mind set on hitting the transfer portal, but I quickly found out it was way too late into the year for all that. In my mind, I only had 2 options, either quit the team or redshirt and try again next year. Well, good thing my grandpa is a lot wiser than I am because he recommended something I never even thought of.
Well, Darius, there are several other positions on the field. Why not humble yourself and go talk with your coach? You have the natural speed and athleticism. I'm sure there's another position you can play.
After hanging up with my grandpa, I immediately went to go talk to my coach. He thought it was a bad idea and insisted that I redshirt, but I wasn't going for it. I refused to leave his office until he agreed to give me a tryout at another position. Once he finally gave in, it was time to get to work. I spent the next few weeks before the first game in the weight room and in the film room. I swear I probably did 1,000 squats just trying to maximize my explosiveness. Well, the first game came and went and I didn't see the field not once. But the second game on the road versus Texas A&M, it was my time to shine. We were down late in the third quarter and that's when coach called my number. I was the only man back to return it and bruh, I took that thing up the field for 45 yards. That one play earned my spot as the second kick returner along with my guy Kool-Aid. Every team knew how dangerous he was returning kicks, but they had no idea who I was. So for the first half of the season, all the teams kicked my way, and more times than not, I made them pay. I didn't take a single handoff my freshman year, but instead I made a name for myself on special teams. I finished the year being awarded the Johnny the Jet Rogers Award, and I was selected as a first-team All-American. So as you just seen, my freshman year at Bama was filled with many ups and downs, but that's honestly been a story of my life. But trust me though, things get greater later. Yeah, my sophomore year was completely mind-blowing, and I promise you nobody saw it coming. But listen, I need y'all to stay tuned to the very end of this episode because I need your advice. With Coach Saban retiring, there's been a lot of changes within the program, and honestly, I think it's time for me to weigh out my options. But yeah, let's get back into it. I took a completely different approach to my sophomore year. With my guy Jace McClain leaving for the NFL, I knew the starting job would be up for grabs. I spent the entire summer in the weight room, getting my body right, and in the film room, getting my mind right. I came into training camp the 4th running back on the depth chart, but by the end of camp, I had officially secured the starting job. Kicking off my sophomore year, I finally start my campaign in the backfield for the Crimson Tide. Now, we'd be taking on Virginia Tech in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game to start the season. We came in ranked number 4 in the country, so I knew everybody had their eyes on our program as we lost several key pieces from last year's team to the NFL draft. Now, the first drive down the field was going according to plan. Well, that's until I went down with a very painful injury, which ended up being a bruised rib. I would be out that game midway through the 4th quarter, where I would come back and score my first collegiate touchdown from the running back position. This moment meant so much to me because, as you all know, I worked extremely hard to get to this point, but of course I wasn't done yet. With about 2.5 minutes left in the final quarter, I would cut back a draw play to the left-hand side of the field, completely confusing the defense, and score a 67-yard touchdown, untouched by the Virginia Tech defenders. We were off to a very hot start as we picked up our very first W of the season, but our next opponent would be looking to put a stop to our victory train before it even started rolling. Our next game would be on the road versus the Texas A&M Aggies. We had a huge target on our back as we had moved into the number 1 spot in all of college football. Well, this game is where I would make a name for myself and send a message to all the opposing teams that I'm the real deal. Just like in the game versus Virginia Tech, I would score a huge touchdown after cutting back a draw play to the left-hand side of the field, striking first and giving us the 7-0 lead. Now, the Aggies were able to go down and score a field goal, bringing them to within 4, but that wouldn't last very long. Hey man, credit to our O-line and our receivers blocking on that outside. I was able to find a hole in the defense and cut the ball upfield for yet another huge touchdown, increasing our lead yet again. My speed and vision, matched with the O-line's ability to create holes, proved to be a match made in heaven. I swear on most plays, I wouldn't even get touched until I was already 10 to 15 yards up the field. It wasn't just me either. My quarterback Jalen Monroe proved to have elite speed and agility as he was able to carve up the Aggie defense just as well. We went on to cruise to our first victory on the road, and I had a crazy day on the ground. I went for over 250 yards for 2 touchdowns on only 18 attempts. But look, man, my performance in those first 2 games of the season thrust me into the Heisman watch, but I knew it was still early on and we had a lot of games left to play in the season, so I didn't pay it any mind. Taking on Colorado State, we had to make sure that we were 100% locked in and focused on the task at hand. Yeah, this is one of those teams that if you take for granted, they could definitely make you pay. Now, the main area I wanted to improve on to start the season was my pass catching. I wanted to make sure I was a reliable option on passing plays, that way I would never have to lead the field on 3rd down. I was able to break off a huge run after catching a screen pass, but we'd only walk away with 3 points on that drive. But on 3rd down on the next drive, coach put the ball in my hands and I was able to make magic happen. All that film I watched my freshman year paid off as I was able to slip through the tight, wet hole of the defense and score a 55-yard touchdown out of nowhere. But of course, I wasn't finished. Our defense was able to get a goal line turnover and put the ball back in our hands at the 2-yard line. Then I would go on to make what many have considered the run of the year. I would go on to score a 90-yard bomb. I was so tired, bro, I completely collapsed at the goal line. Yet again, I had an amazing day on the field, finishing with 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, 19 attempts, and 102 receiving yards. But look, man, my performance completely wowed the college football world as I went on to win Player of the Week, and I also moved into the number 1 spot on the Heisman watch list. Our first game at home definitely didn't start off as planned as we'd find ourselves down 10-0 to 12th ranked Ole Miss. And if I'm being totally honest, bruh, they completely had me shut down the entire first half. But luckily my dog Jalen was able to make several plays through the air. Now, I was able to find the end zone right before halftime after breaking off my curl route for a 3-yard touchdown, cutting the lead down to just 3 points. Starting off the second half, Jalen picked up right where he left off, throwing a dart through the middle of the defense. Then I finally got my head into the game and came up extremely clutch with a 50-yard house call. But look though, all credit has to go to those big guys up front for clearing away. I think I went completely untouched until like the 5-yard line. But look, that run woke up the dog in me and pretty much completely opened the floodgates for our offense. I refused to be brought down as I broke several tackles on a 19-yard gain. Jalen gave us an 11-point lead off of another 3-yard pass and touchdown, and then our defense went down and got another stop. Now, I was given the privilege to put the nail in the coffin as I took the pitch on an option play to the house, giving us a 27-point lead and a hard-fought victory at home. Now, for some reason, even though we were still undefeated, we had dropped down one spot to the number 2 ranked team in the country. And can you guess who was number 1? Of course, none other than LSU. Man, listen, I think I speak for the entire team when I say we was pissed off about this happening. And unfortunately, Georgia State just had to be the ones we took our anger out on. Now, at the time we matched up with them, they were 4-0 just like us, but listen, didn't none of that matter. Man, we went out there and beat the taste buds off them boys. I put on my usual performance and rushed for over 200 yards in just the first half with, I think I had like 3 touchdowns. I didn't even play the entire second half because honestly, the game was pretty much over. We pitched a shutout at home and beat them boys 49-0, but it was on to the next. We be at home taking on a very tough 7-0 Arkansas team. We reached the midway point of the season, so before the game, coach reminded us of all of our goals and everything we set out to accomplish at the beginning of the year. Me personally, I think that meeting was very much needed because sometimes winning in such a dominant fashion can have you start to feel untouchable. Before you know it, you let your guard down and then you'll be looking defeat right in the face. Not only that, but just about everybody on the team was dealing with some type of injury or soreness, but coach said that's all a part of the journey. After that meeting, I adopted the warrior mindset that Coach Saban was talking about. I was mentally prepared to lay it all on the line to get the victory, and well, I went out on the field and did just that. Arkansas put up a very good fight though, but in the end, it just wasn't enough as we take the 28-7 victory at home. The team was rolling and working like a well-oiled BBC. Tennessee came into town looking to pull off a huge upset, but of course we wasn't going for none of that. Jalen started off the game strong, throwing an absolute dot to the corner of the end zone. Then I followed up by breaking off a huge run up the middle of the defense. Now, the thing that was slept on throughout the season was my vision. All people seemed to care about was my speed and agility, but I don't care what nobody says, my vision is next level. We take the 14-0 lead in the first quarter, and it was starting to look like another blowout at home, but that's when tragedy struck. Jalen took a big hit on the quarterback keeper right outside the end zone. Well, that hit would result in an abdominal tear and cause him to miss the next 10 weeks of the season. As you can imagine, this news would be a huge blow to not only our offense, but our team as a whole. Now, we still went on to secure the victory over the Volunteers with Jalen's backup now having the keys to our offense, but this injury couldn't have come at a worse time as our next game we'd be facing our rivals and the number 2 team in the nation, LSU. Man, the game versus LSU was crazy to say the least. Even though almost every game we had played that season was completely sold out, it was just something special about that game that felt extra loud. But look, this game was like a heavyweight title fight. We'd strike first after I pull off a huge 70-yard house call. Then our defense went out there and got a huge stop shutting down all the Tigers' momentum. On our very next drive, my guy Tyler would shake free for like a 30-yard gain, but he would also take a massive hit on the sideline from the LSU defense, causing a fumble. Luckily, the Tigers weren't able to capitalize off that fumble and put the ball right back in our hands. I was looking to make a play whichever way I could, and I came super close to making a house call up the sideline. Although this was Tyler's first time starting all season, he showed tremendous composure in the pocket connecting to my boy Isaiah. Then on 3rd and 6, I had to fight extra hard for the first down after catching a screen pass to the right-hand side of the field. 3 plays later, it was 4th and 1, and for some reason, I'd be on the sideline as the LSU offense forced a tackle for loss, taking over possession of the ball. Jumping ahead to the 3rd quarter, we were down by a touchdown, so it was time to tap back into that warrior mentality. I did whatever I could to get us into the end zone, but eventually we came up short and we have to settle for a field goal. With one last chance to take the lead, I take a handoff on a draw play and was able to pick up about 4 yards. Then on the very next play, 2nd and 6, I was able to only pick up 2 yards. But look, man, on 3rd down, the coach thought it would be a good idea to take me out, and I stood on the sideline and watched LSU stop that lousy screen pass the same way they had been doing all game. We went on to lose to our rivals at home and suffer our first defeat of the year. Seeing them boys celebrate on our logo hurt, but honestly, I couldn't be mad at nobody but myself. I had a chance to give us another shot at winning, but unfortunately I came up short. After suffering that loss at home, we dropped down to the number 5 spot. Honestly, the team's energy and focus was at an all-time low, and we went out and had a horrible game versus Mississippi State. It's really crazy what one single loss can do to a team. I mean, we were still in position to make a run for the playoffs, but I think most people felt like that LSU game was some type of in-season championship or something. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I was Mr. Positive. Nah, don't get me wrong, I was just as pissed off as everybody else, but y'all gotta remember, I was in a race for the Heisman. I couldn't afford to get comfortable. Luckily, we were able to pull off a very sloppy victory at home in a very close game. Honestly, if it wasn't for our defense, I think we probably have another loss on our record. After the close game at Mississippi State, we put on a beating versus a very poor FCS East team. Well, LSU actually ended up losing to Texas A&M, a team we had already beat earlier in the season. Man, that loss shook up the rankings and put us in the number 2 spot in the country, only behind Ohio State. Well, Ohio State went on to suffer their second loss on the season, which moved us back to the number 1 team in the nation. But we had one problem, the Auburn Tigers. We were down big in the second half on the road, but I was able to score the leaping touchdown, moving us to within 4 points. But that's when tragedy would strike again, as I not only got tackled for the huge loss on the play, but I also suffered an injury causing me to leave the game. I would be out of the game until the 53-second mark of the final quarter. Luckily, our offense was able to go down and score a touchdown, but so did the Tigers. I fought through the pain and came up clutch with 2 big plays moving the ball up the field. Then my boy Tyler was able to make an amazing read for the huge game, putting us right outside the red zone, where on the very next play, I was able to take advantage of the zone coverage and find a huge opening in the defense for a touchdown. Our defense was able to put the final nail in the coffin with the clutch interception took back for a touchdown. The energy we had lost versus LSU all came rushing back at one time. Bruh, we had officially punched our ticket to the national championship game. We find ourselves at the Rose Bowl in Southern California to take on the number 2 ranked Texas Longhorns for the college football championship. The stadium was sold out to max capacity, the weather was perfect and the lights were bright. Not only that, but my guy Jalen Milroe was finally back from his injury and in the starting lineup. But look, we'd come down on our first drive and reach the red zone, but unfortunately, we'd have to settle for a field goal. But on our very next possession, I would do what I had been doing all season, making huge plays when we needed them the most. I broke off a 70-yard run on a counter play for a touchdown, putting us up by 9, but like I always say, bro, I wasn't done yet. Our defense got to stop and put the ball right back in our hands, only for me to break off another 40-yard run again. We find ourselves right outside the red zone, but unfortunately, we weren't able to capitalize and eventually went on to miss the field goal. This game was definitely a defensive game. Other than that big house call I made in the first half, we weren't able to move the ball up the field to save our lives. I gotta give credit where it's due, man. The Longhorns defense and their coaches completely shut me out during the second half. But luckily our defense was just as good, as they were able to hold them to only 6 points the entire game. With only 5 seconds left in regulation, we were in victory formation. We finally did it. We won the national championship. If I'm being honest, the feeling was like none other. All the 6 a.m. weight sessions, the 2-a-day practices in the summer, the many ups and downs throughout the season, all of that led up to this one moment. Look, you can say what you want about our squad, but the one thing you have to accept, we champions. I went on to win just about every single award there is to win from the running back position. And of course, I finished the year as a first-team All-American. But the most important trophy I took home was the Heisman. After only playing football for just a few years, I had officially won the most prestigious award there is and put my name in the history books forever. See, I told y'all I had an unbelievable sophomore year, but you didn't want to believe me. Man, if I'm being honest, it's kind of hard for me to believe myself. But look, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of changes going on with the program at Alabama since Coach Saban left. And I'm honestly not really sure what the team is going to look like next season with all the transfers. Say, y'all do me a favor and comment down below. Should I just stay put at Alabama, or should I jump into that transfer portal? But look, Granny cooked my favorite meal and I'm starving, so I'm going to go ahead and dig in. I'll tap back in with y'all in the next one. NIL versus the NFL. Man, this is a topic I've been seeing a lot lately. Well, now that my junior year is completed, it's finally time for me to figure out what my next move is going to be. And I need your help. There's a lot of key factors we got to take into consideration while making this decision. Of course, for most of you, the first thing that comes to mind is money. And that's okay. I mean, money is important. However, you also got to remember the average span for an NFL running back is only 2.5 years. But listen, we're going to get into all that a little later. First, we got a very important meeting to get ready for. WME Sports, one of the largest talent agencies in the world. Their list of clients is massive. I mean, they represent huge names like Venus and Serena, Joel Embiid, Matt Damon, Marlon Humphreys, Ben Affleck, just to name a few. Well, listen, man, they flew me out to LA and put me up in this nice Airbnb, all so we can meet and discuss what they could potentially do for my career if I decide to turn pro. I made it clear that I still hadn't made my decision, but they insisted that I at least come out and hear their pitch, so we're about to get dressed and head over there.
All right, so now that we've gotten to know one another a little bit, why don't you tell us exactly what you're looking for out of this potential partnership?
Well, honesty and integrity for starters, but after all that, I really want to focus on building a brand. As we've already talked about, now is probably the worst time in the history of the league to be a running back. So I definitely want to focus on securing deals and endorsements outside of the game of football. As we both know, injuries are inevitable, so I want to make sure that I'm still in position to take care of my family once my playing days are over.
Hey man, those are some very understandable concerns. One injury can completely derail an entire career. We've seen it happen many of times. And unfortunately, some of those guys didn't have a team that'll fight as hard as we will.
So this is what it feels like, huh? Yeah, this must be what it feels like to have all your hard work pay off. Shit, if I'm being real, this is my first time ever really fully dedicating myself to something. And honestly, I don't even feel like I deserve it. The money, the fame, the accolades, all that don't mean nothing to me. And it's probably because this was never supposed to be my life in the first place. Alright, so look, I know y'all been waiting to hear about all the guys. And if I'm being honest, I kind of been trying to avoid this conversation. Well, today, we're going to talk about my main man, Dre. See, this dude was my brother. When I moved to Chicago from Champaign, he was the first one to embrace me and show me love. My guy was a true comedian. It was impossible to be mad around this dude because he never took nothing serious. Not only that, he was smart as hell too. Let bro tell you he was a borderline genius. Dre loved football. That's all he talked about. If he wasn't with us kicking it on the block, then he was doing just that, playing football. Well, that's until he found out he had a baby on the way. Yeah, that's when everything changed. Bro had to put the football down and pick the broom up. He got him a little part-time job at Walmart. Man, I still remember the day we almost got him fired for riding bikes through the store. But that was back when they was open 24 hours. Even though bro had to take a break from sports to stack up some bread, his football dream stayed alive. I remember he would always say that he was going to make it to the league and bring all the guys there with him. Well, me on the other hand, I was fully committed to the streets. I was always looking for the next scheme, always looking for the next come up. Well, my greed and ego ended up costing me in a way I could have never imagined. Me and one of the guys set up this play to buy some lean, but whole time we was really plotting on robbing his Goofy for his pipe. As soon as he got there, it wasn't no talking. I held dude at gunpoint while folks beat him. We took everything he had and got on. Me, Dre, Montana, and a few of the other guys were supposed to meet later on that night after Dre got off work. So I went back to the crib and got on the game until it was time to link. Well, reports say around 10:30 p.m., a dark colored sedan let off several shots, striking and killing Dre a few feet away from the bus stop. Out of everybody that I lost, Dre's death affected me the most. Not only was it my fault the bro was dead, but he didn't even know why he died. I tried numbing the pain with prescription pills and a few other things, but nothing seemed to work. I knew if I was going to get any type of closure from this situation, I was going to have to go talk to my boy. Man, bro, I know you probably been wondering what took me so long to come and see you, but I still can't believe you gone. You know I miss you though. Your mom still miss you. Everybody miss you. Some days I wake up in the morning and I call your cell phone like, man, let me call and see what bro on, but it just ring. No voicemail, no nothing. It just ring on me. It's like I still can't accept that you gone. Even on the day of your funeral, man, I woke up that morning like I know my boy gonna call. I know my homie gonna call, but you never did. Look, homie, I'm sorry, man. I messed up bad with this one. I know I messed up bad and it cost you your life. I should have been the one that got hit up that night, not you, Dre. I should have been the one that's gone right now. You was doing everything right. You had dreams, you had goals, you had a son. Look, bro, look, I'm gonna make this right for you, I promise. I don't know how, but I'm gonna make this right, bro. Dre's death kicked off a war in our section of the city, but myself and Montana, we had a vested interest because technically we were the ones responsible for all the bloodshed. At the time, I didn't have the heart or the courage to tell any of the other guys why Dre was really killed. I didn't even tell his family. Everyone thought it was just a gang-related homicide, which only made the retaliation even worse. My grandparents knew exactly what type of time I was going to be on, so before everything kicked off, they set me down to try to talk some sense into me. Out of respect for them, I acted as if I was listening to what was being said, but Whole time my mind was on revenge. Now I can't say too much about what happened on this platform, but just know, me and Montana made sure a couple people knew exactly how much Dre was loved. Shortly thereafter, I got locked up for a probation violation. Then I was sent to Chapel Hill in North Carolina to finish high school. The meeting with WME went great. I loved their pitch, and I honestly think there's a potential for a future working relationship. But look, the last time we spoke, I was faced with a huge dilemma. Stay at Alabama for my junior year or pack my bags and jump into the transfer portal. Well, I'm sure by now most of you already know what decision I made, but for those of you that don't, let's get into it.
That's a huge bitch.
Once Coach Saban announced his retirement, we literally lost half our team to the transfer portal. I mean, key guys were jumping in the portal left and right, and honestly, I don't blame them. I got word that the new coach coming in would be Coach DeBoer. I was already familiar with him as he recruited me pretty heavy coming out of high school, so I was okay with that. But my main concern would be the new offensive coordinator, Coach Tommy Tough Knuckles. I didn't know much about the new OC, but the one thing I did know was he liked to use multiple running backs in his offense. So that meant my touches would probably be cut in half. This was a huge concern for me, so I pretty much had my mindset on transferring. Well, that's when my backup, Jan Miller, pulled me aside to have a conversation in the cafeteria one day.
Listen, bro, don't transfer, because all the main pieces is still here. Look, I know you're concerned about sharing your touches, but look at it like this. You will be in the NFL soon, so you need to preserve your body. All I'm doing is taking a load off your shoulders.
I mean, if I'm being real, bro was right. Not only am I a national champion, but I also won the Heisman, for crying out loud. I was a lock for the NFL, and my junior year was nothing more than a technicality. I still wanted to weigh out all my options though, so I spent some time just searching around seeing if maybe I could find a better fit. Once I finally made up my mind, I reached out to my granny for a little reassurance.
Well, baby, you know I support you no matter what. This seems to be the best option right now, so, I mean, I don't think there's anything else to ponder on. I agree with, the action that you're taking. You just gotta stand firm on your beliefs and, stay prayed up, but this is what's best right now.
I'd start my junior year off in a Chick-fil-A kickoff game versus the West Virginia Volunteers, and as you can see, I was still draped in that beautiful crimson from head to toe. Yeah, after weighing out all my options, I decided to stay put at Alabama for another year. Although we lost a lot of important coaches and players on both sides of the ball, the key pieces to our offense were still there and ready to make another run at a championship title. Now, I came into the season 100% healthy and more focused than ever, so I picked up right where I left off the year before, making split-second reads and carving the defense up with my speed and agility. My guy Jalen Milroe was back, and he was on the same type of time as we steamrolled the West Virginia defense and took home the victory in our season opener. Our second game of the season, we'd be at home taking on Florida Atlantic. It definitely felt like the schedule makers were on our side because normally we start off the season with a huge test our first or second game. Well, this year they definitely showed us some love by giving us some weaker opponents early on. Yeah, although we were still that Alabama powerhouse, a lot of changes had been made in our program and we still needed a little bit of time to work out a few kinks. We jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and then Jalen followed up his huge bomb with a quarterback keeper for a touchdown. Not to be outdone, on the very next drive, I scored the leaping touchdown over the Florida Atlantic defense, and that would complete my day as we take the easy victory in our first home game of the season. Coming out versus this FBS school, man, we were surprisingly focused and locked in. Y'all know normally when you have an opponent like this, you can tend to overlook them. Well, all week during our meetings and film, the guys seem to be taking this game extremely serious. As a matter of fact, thinking back, I remember feeling confident in our offense and honestly our team as a whole. Now, I'm not saying I felt like we were already championship favorites, but I did truly feel if we kept playing at such a high level, we'd be right back in that conversation. The time had finally come for our first big test of the season. And when I tell y'all this game went all the way down to the wire, bruh, I mean just that. Ole Miss always shows up to play. Yeah, they always looking to pull off the huge upset over Bama. So I made sure that all the players that transferred here when Coach Saban left knew just how important this game was. But look, y'all know I like to lead by example, so my first touchdown of the game came after I completely ran through the Ole Miss cornerback for 6. Now, I don't know what was going on with our defense as they gave up back-to-back touchdowns on back-to-back drives, but just like Coach DeBoer always say, man, just focus on doing your job and everything else will take care of itself. But look, it would be in this game that I realized that maybe the multiple halfback offense that Coach Tommy Tough Knuckles likes to run wouldn't be a good fit. I mean, we were down by 11 right outside the red zone. but I would be on the sideline watching for 3 consecutive failed plays where we end up settling for a field goal. Then on the very next drive, we reached the red zone again, and I picked up a very clutch first down, only to be taken out the game again and watch my backup Jan Miller score a 7-yard touchdown, bringing us to within 3 points to tie in the game. With only a minute left in the game, the score tied at 21, it was time for players to make plays. Jalen Milroe threw a 27-yard dagger, putting us right outside the end zone. Then the ball was put into my hands as I fought to get the game-winning touchdown over Ole Miss, improving our record to 4-0 on the season. Ooh-wee! We finally reached that point of the season where every team is a threat. Our next game, we'd be on the road taking on the number 24th ranked Texas A&M Aggies. Now, they had already lost 2 games this season, but they were still ranked 24th. Ain't that crazy, G? Anyways, I came out and sent a message early, striking first with a 57-yard touchdown, and they countered back with the score of their own. Now, we were Hoover stomping our way up the field until my guy Jalen Milroe threw an interception, resulting in a Texas A&M touchdown. Jumping ahead to the fourth quarter, still down by 7, Jalen reached into his bag and completed 2 massive passes to move us down the field. Then it was finally my turn to get in on some of the action. I would take a counter to the right side of the field and lower my pass to pick up the very tough first down. With 50 seconds left on 1st and goal, my guy Jalen stepped up yet again, throwing an absolute dagger to the back of the end zone for a touchdown. But we left way too much time on the clock, and Texas A&M would go on to win by a field goal, handing us our first loss of the season. 2-3 Kentucky would be next on our schedule, and we'd be back at home. That loss to the Aggies dropped us down to the number 9th ranked team in the country. Man, it's just something about those close losses that hurt the most. I don't know about y'all, but I'd rather get my back blown out than lose a close game like that. Anyways, I was still having a tough time adjusting to the new offense, mainly because I was on the sideline most of the time watching. I noticed it always seemed to be once we reached the red zone. I guess my main concern was I didn't want the narrative to get out there that I couldn't perform in the red zone or that I couldn't make plays without having a lot of space. The team seemed to be pretty sluggish and out of sync. This would normally be the time that Coach Saban pulled everybody together and gave us a good talking to, but that never happened. Now, I try not to make too much out of tough, close games versus weaker opponents, but it was during that game versus Kentucky that I knew we definitely weren't a championship caliber team. And to make matters worse, I would go down with a very painful injury midway through the second quarter and be sidelined for the remainder of the game. Luckily, my guys were able to come together and pull off a very tough victory at home. Now, I wish I could say that this was our worst game of the season, but unfortunately, that wouldn't be true. Now, we were approaching the midway mark of the season, and I decided to check the standings for the Heisman. I was surprised to see that the list was made up of all running backs, and I was ranked number 2. Now, of course, this didn't really matter because we still had a whole nother half of the season left, but seeing that gave me a little bit of added motivation that I would go on to use when things got tough later down the road. Arkansas would be our next opponent on the schedule. Now, regardless of their record, they always come to play and normally put up a pretty good fight. Coming into this season, I was extremely concerned about our offensive line, only because they were impacted the most by the transfer portal. But I have to give them credit. Up until that point of the season, they have been doing a tremendous job creating holes for me to run through and keeping the pocket clean for Jalen. We would drive all the way down the field, but pick up an unnecessary clipping penalty, which would cause us to have to settle for a field goal. Towards the beginning of the second quarter, Jalen would take over the game. He couldn't have stepped up at a better time because we were definitely in need of a spark. Our defense had done their job and held the Razorbacks to only 3 points, so it was time for us to do ours. But just like it's been all season, as soon as we reached that red zone, I'd be on the sideline watching. Luckily, this time the guys were able to capitalize and score a touchdown, giving us the lead. Now, I have trouble even watching this next play because it hurts so bad. We were all tied up in the fourth quarter when I would commit the only fumble in my 3-year career here at Bama. Not only did I fumble the ball, but the Razorbacks defense took it back for a touchdown. Then to make things even worse, I had 2 chances on the next drive to pick up first downs, but got stopped short each time. Listen, bro, that's when I realized how ruthless fans could be. My DMs were filled with death threats and people talking about I messed up their parlays. We went on to lose our second game of the season, and it came at the hands of me. No pun intended. The rivalry game that we look forward to all season was next up, and as you can see, tensions were at an all-time high. Look at the way the Tennessee defender tackles me not once but twice. I didn't even have the ball, and the refs didn't call nothing. But hey, just like I did for Dre, I got it back in blood. The next play was one of the best plays of my college career. Just when it looked like my back was against the wall, I found my way out. But look though, I still wasn't done beating in the back of the defense. I didn't care if we was at their house or not. I wasn't tolerating any disrespect. Look, I stood on business all game and had my way with them boys. I finished with over 280 yards on just 20 attempts and 3 touchdowns. My performance in those last 2 games moved me up to the #1 spot in the Heisman race. Even though our team hadn't been playing the best and we probably wouldn't be competing for a championship, I still refused to take my foot off that gas. Down at home early versus Mississippi State, the offense was in need of a spark. We hadn't scored all game and it was already the end of the first quarter. I think up until that point I had only been given a ball 3 times and I only had like 8 yards, so y'all know I needed to make my presence felt. Jalen found Isaiah Bond for a huge 38-yard pass, then I would be given a ball on a draw play to the strong side of the field, break a tackle and score a diving 21-yard touchdown, tying the game. On the next drive, I came out with that same energy. I really ran the ball like my life depended on it. I was able to pick up a few key first downs, and then of course I would go take my position on the sideline as soon as we got into the red zone. You know what? Until this day, I'm still confused as to why my backup Jam wanted me to stay here at Bama. If I was to leave, he would have my starting spot. So what was his motive? Did he know with me here we'd have the best chance to win another championship? Or did he know he'd get all the red zone touches? I don't know, man. Y'all comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Anyways, we went on to pull away and get the victory at home over Mississippi State, but it was in this game that I broke the school's single season rushing record, which is huge considering all the great running backs that's come through this university. Y'all remember a few minutes ago after the Kentucky game when I said this wouldn't be our worst game of the season? Well, I wasn't lying. Our performance versus Ohio left a lot to be desired for. I don't know what it was, but we just couldn't get up for this game. Nah, I'm lying, man. I know exactly what it was. We really didn't have much to play for. Now, of course, we were still eligible for a bowl game, but things are a little bit different here at Alabama. The standard isn't a bowl game. No, the standard is a championship game. That's what we play for. So if that's off the table, then things start to seem pointless. Well, to me at least. Look, the same way I took responsibility for fumbling and costing us the game in Arkansas, Jalen, you my dog, but you for sure almost lost us the game versus Ohio. I don't know what bro was on before the game, but man, he was playing horrible. Luckily, he got back right before things got too far out of hand, and we were able to turn things around. The final score was like 17-10. I think it's safe to say at that point we had all mentally checked out. The final game of the season and what could potentially be the final game of my college career came at home in the rain versus our rivals Auburn. This game started off in literally the worst possible way as Jalen threw a pick 6 on his very first pass. And then on the next drive, this dude dropped back in the pocket and took a 13-yard sack. Listen, bro, I thought I had it bad when I fumbled versus Arkansas, but y'all should have seen this dude's DMs after the game. They wanted Buddy's head. But just like old times when things started to get ugly, I stepped up and pulled off yet another crazy run when we needed it the most, tying the game up at 7. Of course, Auburn wasn't backing down. They took the ball the full length of the field to go back up by 7. Y'all should know I wasn't ducking no smoke. I came right back out on the next possession and almost made another house call. Look, I've played in a lot of crazy games since I've been here, but I honestly think this might have been the craziest one. The crowd was so loud I could barely even think. But look, just as I started to get warmed up, the unthinkable happened. I took a huge bone-crushing hit by 2 Auburn defenders that caused me to miss the remainder of the game. But even without me in the game, we still had a chance to win. Down 4 points with 12 seconds left, Jalen makes the worst possible pass. Instead of throwing the ball away, he threw it directly into the hands of the defense. Man, we had to stand there and watch this man take an interception back for a touchdown to end the game. So unfortunately, my junior season didn't end up going as expected. We didn't make the national championship game and I came in second place in the Heisman voting. I took a risk by making the decision to stay at Alabama and play under a new coach in a new system. But hey, it is what it is. Now I have an even bigger decision to make. Should I forego the NFL and try to win another Heisman or national championship? Or should I hire an agent and enter my name into the draft? Man, y'all let me know what my next move should be down below. Man, can somebody please explain the purpose of the NFL draft combine? Honestly, what do they expect to see from me doing a few non-contact drills that they didn't already see watching me play 3 years of college football? But my agent said it will probably help my draft stock if I win, so it is what it is. Anyways, my flight is about to board, so let me catch y'all up with everything that's happened since the last time we talked. After meeting with the sports agents in LA, I returned back to my crib in Alabama. Man, I can't lie, I miss kicking it with the guys. We really just chilled and played the game and reflected on last season. Well, after a while, of course, we started talking about our plans for next season, and that's when I told them I was thinking about going pro. Yeah, if I'm being honest, I've really been thinking about going to the league, but I really don't know.
Man, Goofy, what you don't know?
Nah, bro, it ain't even like that. I'm just saying, what if?
What if? What if what? Bro, like, you got millions of dollars just waiting on you. Yo, stop playing with this money before we get on your head, man.
Yeah, bro, you tripping. If I was in your spot, I would have been gone. I mean, what you staying here for? To go 8-4 again? Man, enter your name in the draft and go to the league and be great.
Nigga tripping.
They didn't know it at the time, but that was all the confirmation I was looking for. I mean, I had already talked to my coaches and my grandparents and listened to their opinions, but I was needing somebody to keep it 100% real with me. I spent the rest of that night kicking it, and then the first thing the next morning, I called the guys over at WME and let them know I was going pro. Everything moved so fast. I made the announcement that I was entering the league, and then the next thing I knew, I was back in LA training for the combine. I was planning on staying in Alabama and training at the facilities there, but my agent insisted that I come back to LA and train with his guys over at Zeus Gym. I can't lie, bro, that was definitely some of the best work I've ever gotten. Not only that, but all my workouts were private, so that meant the gym was completely empty, just me and the trainers. But look, when I wasn't getting my meat stretched out in the gym, I was on the beach doing sand sprints with a 20-pound weight vest on. Bruh, I swear I felt like I was preparing for war or something. But my overall experience with Zeus Gym was a 10 out of 10, so hey, if you ever on the West Coast and you looking to get in some good work, I definitely recommend hitting them up.
Alright, so look, I'm gonna walk you through how everything is gonna work, okay?
Alright, cool.
So first they'll have you come out and do a bench press. This drill isn't as important for your playing style, so just do the best you can. Then next they'll have you do the 40-yard dash. Now we talked about this before, so you know how important this is. After that, there'll be a few movement drills, which should be a piece of cake, and then they'll have you do a few drills with the ball. Listen, you've got this, man. Just stay calm and do what you always do, okay?
Okay, yeah, right, I got you. Just stay calm. Man, bro, I haven't threw up like that in years. I know my agent told me to stay calm, but I think I just had a nervous breakdown. After I got off my knees in the bathroom, I had to call and talk to my granny. When the stakes are high like this and everything's on the line, she's really the only person that seems to keep me calm. But I think I'm good now. Yeah, it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm just going to go out here and do what I do. Focus on what I can control, and anything other than that is out of my hands. Alright, man, the time has finally come. We're on stage getting ready to do this bench press, man. Now, I remember my agent telling me to kind of, preserve my energy, but I'm going for 20 reps, man. Let's go. That's 2. This is easy. Come on, bro. You got to go all the way down, man. Let's go. Lock in, man. Lock it out. Lock it out. Lock it out. Let's go. That's 5. Y'all stamina's looking good. I'm feeling good, man. Let's go. Yeah. That's 8. That's 8. That's 9. Come on, baby. That's 10 reps right there, man. 10 more and we good. 10 more and we good. D, lock it out, man. Okay, that's 12. Our stamina's kind of going crazy, bro. We running out of stamina. That's 14. Give me 15 of them things. Oh, you got to go all the way down, bro. Okay, here we go. That's 16. Come on. Can you get 17? Can you get 18? Can you get 18? Okay. Not too bad, y'all. Not too bad, man. I was able to knock out 18 reps, although it should have been right at like 20 because I didn't go down all the way, I believe, on like 2 reps. But hey, 18 is pretty good. Let's see where we ranked. Okay. We ranked number 13 out of the running backs, man. That's not very good, but hey, I'll take it. Let's move on to this 40-yard dash. All right, man. It's that time, bro. It's that time to go ahead and lock in, bro. Yes, sir. Get your mind right. Get your mind right, man. This is for everything. This is for all the marbles, man. You need to perform. Let's go. Lock in. Lock in. Lock in. Lock in. Okay. Perfect start. Yeah, we moving. Okay, it's looking good. Okay. Oh my God, bro. A 4.29 is crazy, G. A 4.29 is crazy, and I officially took the number 1 spot out of all the running backs. Like, bro, I think that's up there with the record. I'm not sure what the record is, man. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we got to be a few half seconds away from the record of the fastest 40 time ever, bruh. I'm not even gonna hold y'all, bro. The rest of these drills is finna be cake. I'm worry free right now. The only thing I was worried about was that 40-yard dash, and we did our thing. Now we're here in the long jump or whatever it's called, bro. And hey, I'm pretty sure I did my thing on this as well. I think I should have got 12 feet, but they kind of hold me on that one, but it's all cool, bro. So we took first place in the broad jump as well. Let's go ahead and move on. What we got next, man? I think we got the cones. Yeah, we got the cones, man. I'm finna do my thing in these cones too. If y'all can't tell, man, I'm on 10 right now. We came out here and performed. The whole time I was in LA training, all I was worried about was a 40. I was on the beach doing 40-yard dashes with a 20-pound weight vest on, only to come out here and take first place in the 40-yard dash and first place in the broad jump, first place in this 20-yard shuttle. Hey man, we doing our thing, and it's looking like your boy gonna be a lottery pick. Now we have finally reached the portion of the NFL Combine where we hit the field and we show off our skills. Now if you ask me, these drills are completely pointless simply because NFL scouts already have footage of me from the past 3 years performing these same exact moves against live defense. And not only live defense, but some of the best defense in the nation. But we ain't gonna complain, we just gonna make the best of it. So I'm doing my thing here, but the main thing that I am concerned about is the pass catching. See, my goal during this whole combine is to show off that I have speed and I have hands. That way you don't have to worry about me being in the game for the first and second down, but no, the third down as well. So we finished 4 for 4 on the reaction time drills. Now we're here at the pass catching, good over the shoulder catch, man. Let's go. I want to show off my route running a little bit. Now I'm a little shaky on the routes, bro, but as long as we catch the ball, we should be cool. Okay, let me see what we got here. Oh yeah, the route running is definitely not where it needs to be, but that's something we can fix, you know what I'm saying? Now we got our deep ball, bro. All you got to do is catch the ball, man. Good over the shoulder catch in the zone, man. We went 8 for 8 for the on the field drills. We did our thing. So look, we finished 13th in the bench press, first in the 40-yard dash, first in the broad jump, first in the 20-yard shuttle, and who knows what we finished in our drills, man. But we did our thing. Honestly, I'm feeling pretty confident right now. They have me ranked as a mid-first rounder. I don't know how I feel about that, bro, to be honest with you, but hey, man, I'm feeling confident going forward. Let's see what happens. Well, I guess I should start off by saying welcome to the new crib. I finally unpacked the final box a few days ago, and it's starting to feel like home around here. Now, the last time you saw me was at the NFL Draft Combine, so I know you probably wonder how I ended up here, right? Well, hey, let's talk about it. The house was full of people on the night of the draft. Yeah, I decided instead of flying to New York, I was gonna bring the NFL to the trenches. I was on edge most of the night, really just staying ducked off into myself. I was really just hoping I didn't get embarrassed and my name not get called. Well, my phone finally rung, and it was the general manager for the Washington Commanders. I was officially an NFL running back. Next thing I knew, I was on a flight headed to the team's facility. When I got there, it was a huge celebration with so many new faces just happy to see me. The only thing I was worried about was signing that contract. I don't know, I was just paranoid, thinking like, what if I break my leg walking into the building or something? But look, I officially inked a 4-year, $15.9 million deal with the Washington Commanders. Hey, I'm rich. As soon as I got to the city, the first step was finding a crib. Now, as we all know, this league can be extremely unpredictable at times, so rather than purchasing a huge mansion, I found a nice low-key house ducked off a few minutes away from the practice facility. Man, listen, it's got everything. A 2-car garage, a pool table, open kitchen, pond in the backyard, quiet neighborhood. Bro, I'm telling you, it's perfect. Now, I know y'all was probably expecting me to make some huge purchase, but nah. Honestly, I haven't spent any of my NFL money. Instead, I've just been living off my old NIL checks. Well, I guess the one big purchase I did make was my grandparents a new car. Man, they've had that Lexus forever, so to be able to put them in something new after all they've done for me, man, that felt amazing. Coming into training camp, I was the clear favorite for the starting job, but I knew I still had to compete and win the position. Well, during training camp, I did my thing and showed off why they drafted me here in the first place. But none of that even mattered unless I was performing against real competition. So the 3 preseason games would be my chance to fully secure the starting job, and I went out there and did just that. Coming out of my first preseason game, surprisingly, I wasn't nervous at all. Now, I did know the starting job was on the line, so I had to make an impact right away. But look, since this was just the first preseason game, my time on the field was very limited, just the first quarter. So every time I touched the ball, I tried my best to secure the first down. Another very important part of my preseason was to show off my pocket protection. Yeah, I had to make sure my guy Brissett felt extremely comfortable with me watching his back during those passing plays. See, in college at Alabama, I found myself on the sideline during those very important big third down plays. Well, I wanted to make sure that now I'm in the NFL, there's never a reason for me to be out of the game. But look, I had a pretty solid game, finishing with 50 yards and a touchdown on only 6 rushing attempts. Of course, there was still a lot more work to be done, but considering I only played 1 quarter, that wasn't too bad. The next game, we'd be back at home taking on the Ravens. Man, it felt so crazy because as a kid, I never really cared about sports, but for some reason, I'd always find myself watching Ray Lewis highlights. Y'all remember that intro we had on Madden 13? He had me ready to run through a brick wall. Him, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs. Listen, man, that defense was goated. Anyways, this would be somewhat of a breakout game for me. I didn't put up huge numbers, but I definitely had a few glimpses of what I could do if I was given a few more touches. Although this was only our second preseason game, our offense was running very smoothly. We were able to move the ball up the field with ease, and my guy Jacoby was playing like Tom Brady. We pushed the defense back all the way to the goal line, and that's when I was able to take the draw play in for 6, giving me my first touchdown and giving us the lead. Just like we were able to dominate the Ravens defense, our defense was able to dominate the Ravens offense, holding them to 0 points all the way through the first quarter. Our next offensive drive picked up right where the last one ended, but there was a little bit of a mishap as I missed the key block coming off the edge, which led to a sack. No big deal though, we bounced right back, and my guy Jacoby threw an absolute beam over the top of the defense for like 75 yards, putting us right outside the end zone. Then of course, they put the ball in your boy's hands on a simple draw play, and I was able to increase our lead to 2 touchdowns. My efforts on the final play of the first half left a lasting impression on all my coaches, fans, and my teammates. Bruh, I made several key blocks that led to a huge touchdown. Honestly, I was the only person upfield blocking, so if it wasn't for me, we probably wouldn't have scored. In what would be our final preseason game, we'd be at home taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, initially I was set to play all the way up into the 4th quarter, if not the whole game, but based on my performance in training camp and my performance in the other preseason games, I had already secured the starting spot. I think knowing that I had already secured the starting job made me more relaxed, which then translated to me playing more freely. I came out during this game versus the Bengals razor focus, and it actually ended up being my best game thus far. The offense was really clicking and working very well together. Before the game, coach instructed us all to just focus on doing our job and our job only, and everything else would take care of itself. It kind of reminded me of my days at Bama because Coach Saban would give us those same exact instructions, and honestly, it worked out just like he said. But look, right at the end of the first quarter, I broke off a huge run up the middle of the defense. I was only 1 broken tackle away from scoring, but at the beginning of the second quarter, I would find my way into the end zone and give us a 7-point lead. Now, I know this was just the preseason and things are still liable to change, but if I'm being honest, man, I was really pleased with the way I was being used in the offense over the course of those 3 games. I had my hand in the running game and the passing game. And plus, I believe I showed the coaches that I'm not a liability when it comes to pass blocking. But look, we went on to pull away in the second half and we left the stadium with the W. I had a hell of a day on the ground, finishing with over 150 yards, 2 touchdowns on only 22 attempts. Now, I did have a small impact in the passing game as well. Look, I know there's still a long season ahead of us with many challenges and obstacles waiting, but I feel pretty comfortable saying that I think we're off to a good start. Man, listen, the way I was living while growing up in Chicago, I knew there was always a good chance I'd end up in jail. But as you all know, I've since changed my life and made something of myself. So for me to be sitting in a maximum security prison after coming this far is crazy. But I'm not here for the reason you may think. So about 2 weeks ago, I was at the crib in the kitchen, cooking some lunch and scrolling on YouTube. I had just finished up my morning workout and honestly, I was feeling pretty good. Well, that's when I got an urgent text message from my grandpa telling me to call him as soon as possible. Yo, what's up, Pops? Is everything okay?
Everything's fine.
I mean, you told me to call you. What's going on?
Alright, look, son, I'm gonna come right out and say it. Your father has been calling the house for the past few weeks looking to speak with you.
Man, hold on, what? Why you just not telling me this?
Your grandmother and I thought it'd be best if we waited until the season was over to tell you. That way you can stay focused on the game. But listen, I went ahead and gave him your number, so you should be hearing from him soon. I'll give you a call a little later. I love you, son.
Upset, confused, anxious, nervous. Man, those were all just a few of the emotions I felt while waiting on his call. I hadn't talked to my dad since a couple weeks after my 15th birthday. So for him to have the audacity to reach out now, after I made it this far, just blows my mind. I spent the rest of that day glued to my phone waiting for his call to come, but it never came. The following days, my nerves were just as high, so I knew I needed to get out the house. I spent the most of my time in the car exploring the city or putting in work in the weight room. Well, I was having lunch in the cafeteria at the team's training facility one day, and that's when the call finally came. Over the course of the next week, my dad and I talked every day for hours, mainly about sports, of course, and a few old memories from my childhood. Well, about 3 years ago, he got moved here to the Florida State Prison to finish off his sentence. I was going to be here in Florida anyways for the Pro Bowl, so I figured I may as well pay him a visit.
Man, look, son, I know me not being there for you after your mother passed, I know that hurt. I would have given anything to change the way things happen, but unfortunately, I can't. And that's something that haunts me every day.
Why did you feel it was okay to stop calling the house and responding to my letters after my mama died?
I was hurt, son. I was hurt. I mean...
You were hurt? You don't think I was hurt? Man, be for real. You not only left me to raise myself as a kid, but you left me again when I needed you the most.
Darius, look, man, I know I'm not perfect. None of us are. All I'm trying to do here is just establish a relationship with my son. Now, I understand that there's a lot we need to talk about, but we ain't got to get into all that one day. Why don't we just catch up a little, man?
The visit with my dad went well, I guess. I mean, we talked through a few things, but there's still a lot more we need to discuss. He told me he had his sentence reduced and he should be getting out within the next 3 years. I honestly don't know how to feel about the whole thing, but I mean, it is what it is. Anyways, I got like a 2-hour drive back to Orlando, so I guess I might as well fill y'all in on how my first year in the league went. Man, it's a lot that they don't prepare you for in the league. You just really gotta adapt to the system. I thought I'd have a lot more free time than I did in college, but nah, it's the complete opposite. Most days I wake up at about 5:30 a.m. and have my protein shake, and then I do my morning routine. Shortly thereafter, I'm out the door to get in some early morning cardio. Now, I normally try to do about 3 miles at a pretty moderate tempo just to get my blood flowing. Once I'm done with that, it's off to the team facility for weights and my early morning meetings. Now, those usually last about 2.5, maybe 3 hours, and then depending on when our game is scheduled, we have a pretty intense practice. I ain't gonna lie though, you probably think that the practice would be somewhat fun, but honestly, it's really the worst part because all we do is walk through the exact same thing we just finished watching on film, but hey, I guess it is what it is, right? Another thing they don't prepare you for is your family begging. Man, honestly, I can't even really call these people my family because I never seen them before I made it to the league, but now that I'm here, they seem to be popping up everywhere. One of my uncles even matched with me on Tinder, posing as a fine-ass Latina chick. I'm telling y'all, bruh, it's getting crazy. But look, I was back in the city for the opening of my grandparents' new church. I guess you can consider this my first big purchase. Yeah, I was able to get the building for pretty cheap, and then I spent a couple thousand just remodeling the place. But anyways, while I was there visiting, that same uncle pulled me to the side to ask for a crazy request.
Oh, Darius, what's going on, baby? What's going on? Hey, just the man I wanted to see. Now, look, I just want to say, before I say anything, I want to say congratulations for all your accomplishments, whatever that is. But look, man, I got something to talk to you about. Real big money moves. So I think that was about last week. I was eating up at the homeless shelter, and I thought to myself, what if I started doing real estate for luxury cardboard homes? That'd be crazy, wouldn't it? It'd be crazy. We start a line of cardboard boxes. We call it cheap living from the soup kitchen. You dig what I'm saying? Now look, all I'm gonna need is about 80 grand. Okay, I'm gonna need about 80 grand, and we can get this thing started. Now look, once everything get back, you know what I'm saying? I get 95. I take 95%. You get 20. Now tell me, do I look like somebody that's not trustworthy? Huh? You can trust me with your money. Go and give me that 80 grand. You can trust me with your money. Go and give me that 80 grand.
So look, I'll be the first to say that I lived a pretty boring life off the field this year. Yeah, I didn't do too much and I just stayed out the way for the most part. But on the field, that was a completely different story. I was a problem for any opposing defense they put in front of me. Not only that, but I became a key weapon on this year's team. As a matter of fact, let me show y'all some of the work I put in. We kicked our season off at home versus the Arizona Cardinals. Now, we had a pretty amazing training camp and preseason, so the team's morale was at an all-time high and the buzz throughout the city was crazy. But look, our offense came out really aggressive, moving the ball up the field with ease. Honestly, I figured with this being our first game, we come out more so conservative, but apparently Coach Riviera had other plans. But look, midway through the first quarter, I would score my first official NFL touchdown. That moment felt so unreal, but I couldn't celebrate for too long because, of course, we still had more work to do. Little did I know the joy I felt after scoring my first touchdown would come back only minutes later as I was able to find the end zone again for my second tutty of the game. We went on to take the victory in the season opener, and I had a hell of a day, putting up over 150 rushing yards on only 22 attempts, plus 3 touchdowns. Yeah, we was off to a very hot start. I've always heard about how hard it is to breathe in Mile High Stadium, but honestly, I didn't pay it too much attention heading into week 2 to take on the Denver Broncos. This was my first NFL road game, so I didn't know what to expect. But if I'm being honest, it really wasn't all that bad. Yeah, it was loud, but I think Bama versus LSU games had the Bronco fans beat. Or it could have just been the fact that we had the stadium completely silent for most of the game as I broke off 2 huge back-to-back touchdown runs in just the first half. Now, as much as I'd like to take all the credit for my success during this game, it really belongs to those guys up front. I went completely untouched on both plays, which is crazy. Week 3, the Buffalo Bills came to town looking for the smoke. Yeah, of course, they was trying to put a stop to our undefeated season before it even got started. But, I mean, come on, bro. We wasn't going for none of that. After a huge kick return and only 3 offensive plays, we had already put up 7 points on the board. I mean, it was literally just 3 plays before we scored. Now, y'all know I got to keep it real, though. They completely had me shut down the entire game. I think going into halftime, I only had like 53 rushing yards. I was really struggling to get a first down. And to make matters even worse, my guy JB went down with the injury that was going to cause him to miss the next 6 weeks of the season, bruh. 6 weeks is crazy. But y'all know the old saying, next man up. Sam Howell came in the game throwing absolute darts, moving us up the field to score another touchdown and another victory at home, improving our record to a very impressive 4-0 to start the season. The Philadelphia Eagles. Man, even though I never really watched sports growing up, I always liked this squad, mainly because of how hard their fans rode for their team. I remember as a kid watching an old YouTube video of a couple Eagles fans running into the side of a car of a Cowboys fan that was stranded on the side of the road. Bruh, I don't know why that's so funny to me. But anyways, now the Eagles is the ops, and y'all should already know how I'm stepping every time it's smoke. I sent a message early on cracking over 100 rushing yards on just 5 attempts, but unfortunately, we faced a bit of adversity early on as well, as Sam threw a 70-yard pick 6 right before the halftime, which ultimately changed the whole dynamic of the game. We were down big in the fourth quarter with only a few minutes left, and things weren't looking too good, but we still fought hard. We drove all the way down the field and ended up getting a touchdown, but unfortunately, it was too little too late. We suffer our first loss of the season at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles. Losing in the pros is a lot different than losing in college. Now, don't get me wrong, I truly believe all the players care the same, but if you really think about it, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to care about losing as a pro when you set to make millions regardless of the outcome. I think that must be what separates the average from the greats then, huh? But anyways, check this out. Our next game, we'd be taking on the home team, the Chicago Bears. I knew all my teammates and classmates and exes and uncles and cousins would be watching, so I was itching to make a big play. Unfortunately, that big play never came, but the team performed very well. Well, that was until my guy Sam, yet again, threw another interception, which eventually led to the Bears getting a touchdown and another loss for us on the season. No matter how good you play, the one thing you'll never be able to beat is turnovers. I remember going into week 6 versus the Falcons thinking that if we could just stop giving the ball back to the defense, we could actually have some success and pull off some tough games in the second half of the season. Well, those thoughts were quickly erased as we turned the ball over yet again on our first possession of the game. Of course, the Falcons took advantage of the good field position and went on to score. I knew we were in need of a boost of energy, so I came in clutch, taking a draw play up the field for like 20 yards, putting us right outside the red zone. The next play, I was able to find a huge hole in the zone coverage and fight for a few extra yards, almost picking up the first down. Finally, I busted my way into the end zone to tie the game up going into halftime. Well, so I thought. Man, the Falcons completely ran through our defense, taking the lead back and going up by 11 points. Yet again, we found ourselves trailing in another close game. At this point, I wasn't having much success on the ground, so that was all the more reason to become a threat through the air. I broke off my blocking assignment and became wide open over the middle, catching the pass and taking it in for a touchdown, but unfortunately we missed the field goal, so we were still down by 5. Luckily, our defense was able to hold up and force a turnover, putting the ball back into our hands with more than enough time to start a comeback. I would come up clutch yet again on a wheel route out the backfield for a touchdown. Y'all remember all that work I was putting in on my pass catching in Alabama, right? Well, as you can see, it all paid off. We then went on to successfully complete the 2-point conversion, giving us a 3-point lead. Somehow the Falcons managed to score not once, but twice. I mean, they really put up 14 points all in a matter of 5 minutes. I honestly still don't know what happened. Like, to this day, I have no idea, bruh. But even though we played a good game, we still went on to suffer defeat. Yet again, those turnovers played a huge role in our demise, but like I always say, it is what it is. Week 7 taking on the New York Giants, we finally had my guy Jacoby Brissett back in the lineup, and I was excited. Well, that excitement only lasted about 3 plays as Buddy came out and threw a damn interception on the opening drive. Honestly, I wasn't even really too much upset. I mean, hell, by that point I was already used to it. Believe it or not, we played even worse with our starting QB back in the lineup than we did with his backup. And can y'all believe the Giants equipment manager tried to shoot the ones with me on the sideline? Now, I started to suck Buddy off, but luckily I was able to contain myself. But look, my guy JB played absolutely horrible. I knew he was coming back from injury, so I didn't expect too much, but come on, bro. We literally only scored 1 touchdown all game, and that came off of a screen pass. Man, I think bro really finished with like 90 passing yards for the whole game, and you guessed it, we lost again. Week 9, back at home versus the Eagles with the chance to tie the season series. But come on now, y'all should know better than that. It was much of the same. I'll give it to my guy JB, he played a little bit better, but I keep telling y'all, those turnovers put us out of games before they even get started. We were finally able to score on the opening drive for the first time in what felt like forever, but unfortunately, that was really the only bright spot of the game. Of course, in the second half, we were trailing, but the game was still close. So it was only right for us to throw an interception and the Eagles go on to score a touchdown. I swear, if it was allowed, I probably would have bet against my own team this season because we played so predictable. I mean, it was the same thing week after week, and honestly, it got to the point that it started to feel pointless. I felt like a lot of the guys were out there just running around, playing with no pride, and honestly, it got flat out embarrassing. We became that team that you were embarrassed to lose to. Week 9, we be on the road in Foxborough taking on the New England Patriots. We finally were matched up against a team that I honestly felt like we were better than. We started off playing pretty well as me and JB were able to make a beautiful connection to the back of the end zone for 6. Then coming out on the next drive, I had the wheel route coming out of the backfield, but it ended up getting intercepted and took all the way back for a touchdown. As I mentioned before though, we were used to playing against adversity, so we didn't panic. Nah, we just came back out on the next drive and made more plays. At this point of the season, I had become a huge threat through the air and of course on the ground. I mean, I was literally carrying the offense every single game and I was ranked second on the team in reception yards. Now I'd be lying to y'all if I told you my body wasn't starting to feel all those hits, but there were still games left to be played. With 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and a 2-point lead, I went on to put the final nail in the coffin, pulling off the highlight reel type play for a touchdown, giving us a 2-possession lead and securing the win on the road. This game was actually one of my best games of the season as I was able to finish with over 170 rushing yards, 96 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. I remember the exact moment like it was yesterday. It was week 10 and we were on the road in Seattle. Right before kickoff, I had looked at the playoff picture and of course we were nowhere to be found. Honestly, we were having a horrible season and not much to play for, so that's when I decided to be selfish. Now, normally with my team being so bad, I would probably just go through the motions, not take stuff serious. But it was at that moment that I promised myself to still put my all into the game until the end of the season. Turnovers had been a huge problem for the team all year, but I was always able to say I was never really responsible for any of them. Well, my first fumble came during this game, and honestly, I ain't have nobody to blame but myself. Of course, we ended up losing yet another game, but like I said, I had shifted my focus. I didn't care about winning anymore. I was only worried about putting up huge numbers, and I did just that. With just 2 minutes left in the game, I made a huge house call off a screen pass, stuffing the stat sheet before the end of regulation. Week 11, we be back at home taking on the New York Giants again for the second time this season. To my surprise, the fans still packed the stadium and were screaming just as loud as they were the first game of the season. I really appreciated the fans being there and showing their loyalty. However, I was upset that we didn't give them much to cheer for. Listen, we only scored 1 single touchdown this game. I mean, like literally 1 touchdown. No matter how much enthusiasm you may have, bro, that's hard to cheer for. And I know y'all probably sick and tired of hearing me talk about how bad we were, but bruh, I wish I was lying. And it wasn't like we weren't running the plays correctly or the other team was just way bigger and stronger than us. No, they were just simply better. Yes, I said it. Every team we faced was simply better, especially at the skill positions. Minus me, of course. Well, look, man, we dropped another game at home, adding another loss to our miserable record. The final game on my rookie season came week 13 versus the Dallas Cowboys, Thanksgiving Day. Yeah, I know you're probably confused and wondering why my season was cut short. Well, listen, I was equally confused when I got the news and had no idea what was going on. That's when I was introduced to NFL politics. Now, I don't know if I'm even supposed to be telling y'all this, but I'm going to explain everything to you how they explained it to me. With the team officially being out of the playoff picture, there was literally no reason for us to still be playing. So it would be pointless for me to be out there taking those hits for no reason. I spent the next 5 weeks of the season on the sideline with a toe injury, whatever that means. But look, I stood there and watched us lose 4 out of the next 5 games. A few of the big names in the front office assured me things were going to change over the offseason, so just stay patient. Well, bruh, they wasn't lying. On January 8th, they officially fired Coach Ron Rivera and a few other members of the staff. Even though our season was absolutely horrible, I still managed to achieve a great deal of success, as I was of course named to the NFL All-Pro team, and I'll be playing in my first Pro Bowl. Look, I don't know what the future holds for me here in Washington, but I do know that wherever I'm at, I'm gonna shine. Y'all stay down with me from the grimy streets of Chicago to the bright lights of the NFL. The road to glory is a long journey, and it looks like I still got a ways to go, but I think I'm headed in the right direction.